The Maya calendar is a complex system of incredible beauty, containing many interlocking cycles, with some of them linked to the periodic orbits of the planets. All this complexity is a reflection of the divine reverence that the Maya had for the passage of time, and also the associated motions of the heavenly bodies. In this video, you'll learn how to read Mayan calendar dates. For instance, the dates on the beautiful Leiden plaque, or the stele of King Bert Jaguar III. To be able to read these dates, we'll first learn how to count in Mayan, using their three-symbol system: a dot for 1, a line for 5, and a shell for 0. Then we'll talk about Mayan hieroglyphs, which were also used to write down Mayan calendar dates. As it turns out, Mayan glyphs are very hard to read, as there are both glyphs for sounds and words. And on top of this, every glyph can also be presented in many variations. For instance, here we see the symbol for 0, described as an abstract symbol, a hat, or even an entire human figure. The calendar itself consists of many cycles, including the sacred Tzolkin cycle of 260 days, and also the Haab cycle of 365 days, and also the 52-year calendar round cycle. And then there is the long count system, which repeats itself over a period of over 5,000 years. The previous cycle started on August 11, 3114 BC, at the Mayan date 00000, and it ended on September the 21st in the year 2012, on the Mayan date 130000. So we have a lot to get to, and if this material is valuable to you, please subscribe, and let's start. If we want to understand the Maya calendar, we first have to understand the Maya counting system. Cleverly, they only used 3 symbols: a dot for 1, a horizontal line for 5, and a shell for 0. The inclusion of 0 is significant here, as many societies, including the Greeks, did not invent it. So here we see the first 19 numbers: the shell for 0, 1 dot for 1, 2 dots for 2, etc. And then we come to a bar for 5, a bar and a dot for 6, etc. all the way up to 19. Which is 3 bars and 4 dots. Strangely, the Maya used a base 20 numeral system as opposed to our base 10 or decimal system. This means that they had symbols from 0 to 19, as we have just seen, and for higher numbers they would combine these symbols using place value notation. Now, what does this mean? This is actually similar to what we do today. The number 41, for instance, doesn't mean 4 plus 1. The 4, since it occupies the second place from the right, instead has the value 4 times 10 is 40. The Maya did the same, but now with a base 20 system. So 41 in Mayan becomes 4 times 20 plus 1 is 81. The Mayans chose to write these numbers not next to each other, what we're used to today, but on top of each other. For instance, here we see the number 86. On the bottom we have 6, a line and a dot, and on the top we have 4 dots, but since it is in the second place we have to do 4 times 20 is 80, and together this becomes 86. And here we have 2502. At the bottom we have 2, in the middle we have a 5, but times 20 is 100. And here we even have a third place, which is a 6, a horizontal line and a dot. But on the third place we have to do twice times 20, and 6 times 20 times 20 is 2400, and all added together becomes 2500 too. Now, if you thought the number system was hard, wait until you see the Mayan script. The Mayan script, which dates back to at least the 3rd century BC, is one of the most beautiful writing systems of the world. The script was finally deciphered with great difficulty in the 1970s by various scholars. What made the decipherment especially difficult is that there are glyphs for both words and individual sounds. And on top of this, every glyph exists in many variations. As mentioned before, here we have glyphs for 0, as a shell, a head, and a human being. And here we have many variants, just for the letter U. Writing among the Mayans was seen as an art form. And writers were actually allowed to change the glyph according to their own artistic tastes. In fact, the Mayan word for painter is the same as their word for writer. Now let's discuss the earliest appearances of the Mesoamerican calendar. The oldest written date for Mesoamerica belonged to the Zapotec civilization, dated to around 600 BC. Unfortunately, this date doesn't specify the year it's from, but only a day in their sacred 260-day calendar known as the Tzolkin. And in this case, we read the date 1 earthquake. The first fully readable year, corresponding to 32 BC, comes from the late Olmec site Tres Zapotes. The stone, which is unfortunately split in two, reads 7, a bar with 2 dots, 16, 3 bars and a dot, 6, 16 and 18. And as we shall later discuss, this corresponds to 32 BC. And here we have the bottom part of this monument. With some imagination, the stela from Chiapa de Corzo shows 7, 16, 3, 2, 13, with the top part missing, but since these are the large numbers, they are usually the same in a given era. And this corresponds to 36 BC, 4 years older than the previous example. Much more impressive is the La Mojara stela 1, also from Tres Zapotes, and this has the date 156 AD. And this stela also contains the first large text from Mesoamerica. It is a beautiful piece of art. The Mayans then took that Mesoamerican calendar that they inherited to the next level. They created the most intricate calendar of the ancient world, combining many ways to describe a single date. Let's start with that sacred calendar of 260 days called the Tzolkin calendar. Each day in the cycle was described by a combination of one of 20 day glyphs combined with one of 13 numbers, namely the numbers 1 to 13. And combined, this gives a total of 20 times 13 is 260 combinations. And here we see those 20 day glyphs, some written in a number of variations. How this system works has often been visualized by 2 interlocking wheels, as you can see here. Where the wheels meet, we now see 1 emix. If we now rotate the circles by 1 step, we get to 2 ik, 3 akbal, 4 kan, etc. And if you continue to rotate, you get all of those 260 combinations, and then the cycle starts over again. Many hypotheses have been proposed to understand the function of this 260-day calendar, but none of them are convincing. What is certainly unhelpful is that it doesn't sync with the year cycle, so also not with the agricultural cycle. So for instance, 1 emix can be in the spring one time and the next time in winter. It seems completely arbitrary. One theory is that it is linked to the period between the appearance of Venus as a morning and as an evening star, which takes 263 days on average. But this doesn't really work, as this doesn't occur every 263 days. So it doesn't at all sync up with the calendar. Or perhaps it can be linked to the period of Mars, which is 3 times 260 days. This is possible, but there is no direct evidence for this. Then there was a system based on the 365 solar year, and the Mayans called this the Haab calendar. It consists of 18 month glyphs, which you can see here, combined with one of 20 numbers, in this case running from 0 to 19. This then adds up to a total of 18 times 20 is 360 combinations for 360 days. Then a 5-day 19th month was added, so we can get to 365. And by the way, these last 5 days were considered an unlucky time. With this calendar, we start with the first month glyph, pop. And then we go through all the numbers at once. So pop 0, pop 1, pop 2, etc. And then after 19, we go to the next month glyph, which is woe. It becomes woe 0, woe 1, etc. There was also the so-called year-bearer system. And this works as follows. It was found that each solar year always started on just 4 day glyphs of the 260-day Tzolkin system. Namely, every solar year also started on house, rabbit, reed or flint, 4 of the 20 day glyphs. Now let's examine why this happens. The Tzolkin, as we've mentioned, has 20 day glyphs. Say we start at one house, then after 18 full rounds through those 20 day glyphs, we get to 18 times 20 is 360 days. And because these are full rounds, we again end up with the same day glyph, namely house in this example. But to complete the year, the calendar has to advance by 5 extra day glyphs to get to 365. So at the start of the next year, the day glyph system has advanced by 5. Now this can be done a total of 4 years, since 4 times 5 is 20. And then we're back to the same first glyph, namely house. And this is why the solar year always starts on one of those 4 glyphs only. Now let's turn to the 13 number cycle of the Tzolkin, which ran from 1 to 13. Say that we start at 1. After 28 full rounds going through that 13-day cycle, we get a total of 364 days. And because these are full rounds, after these rounds we're back to 1. But 365 days is 1 day short of a full year. So after 1 year, we have to advance that number by 1. So we go from 1 to 2. So at the starting day of every year, that 13-day number cycle advances by 1 each year. In this way, the year starts first at 1 house, then the next year 2 rabbit, then 3 reed, then 4 flint, then 5 house again, 6 rabbit again, etc. So these first days of the year run through those 4 day name glyphs and through those numbers 1 through 13. And this gives 4 times 13 is 52 unique combinations, meaning we can describe 52 years in this way. And this is known as the calendar round. Then there is the so-called long count system, which repeats itself after a period of 5,000 years, with the previous cycle starting on August the 11th, 3114 BC. In this calendar, each day is described relative to this starting date by 5 numbers. We have 1 day kins, 20 day winals, 360 day tons, 360 times 20 is 7,200 day katuns, and 7,200 times 20 is 144,000 day baktuns. And here we see the glyphs for those kins, winals, tons, katuns and baktuns. The first date of the cycle is described in modern days as 00000, and the cycle ends 3 baktuns later at 130000, when a new phase of creation starts according to their myth. With the last cycle ending on December the 21st, 2012, which was the breeding ground for many conspiracy theories. There were also a number of lunar cycles that were tracked. One indicates the phase of the moon, and another counts the lunar months from 1 to 6, which, by the way, was important for predicting lunar and solar eclipses. And then finally, there is a curious 819-day cycle. And it was only recently discovered that this cycle matches the orbital times of all the visible planets. For instance, 7 times the orbit of Mercury, which is 117 days, is 1 times that 819 days. And 7 times the orbital period of Venus, given here as 585 days, is equal to 5 times 819, etc. Wonderfully, this system beautifully repeats itself. Every 20 times 819 is 16,380 days. And this interval has been found on various inscriptions at Palenque, suggesting that this number was indeed important to the Mayans. And there's more, that 16,380 days also fits with the 216 Tzolkin calendar. For 260 times 63, a whole number, is 16,380 days. Now let's bring it all together. These different calendars are often all combined when dates are mentioned in Maya texts. And this is peculiar since the long count alone would have been enough to determine a date. As an example, let's study the Leiden plaque. We start on top with an introductory sign, and below it we have the long count date. And the numbers on the left side you can actually read by now. Here we see a line and 3 dots, that's 8, so these are 8 baktuns. Then we have 2 bars and 4 dots, which is 14, which are 14 katuns. Then we have 3 tons, 1 weinel and 12 kins. So the long count date becomes 8, 14, 3, 1, 12. And if we add this all up, 8 times 144,000 times 14 times 7,200 days plus 3 times 360 days plus 1 times 20 plus 12 times 1. And this totals to 1,253,912 days since the beginning of the calendar. Now if we add those days to the starting date, August 11th, 3114 BC, and we correct for leap years, we find September the 15th, 320 AD, which gives us when the Leiden plaque was made. Under the long count date, we see the Tzolkin system. In this case we read 1 eb. Then we get the so-called Lord of the Night glyph, which is a 9-day cycle. And then we get the Haab system, in this case reading 0 jakskin. And finally, the glyph at the bottom describes the coronation of a ruler. As a final example, let's study Stela 1 from Jakschilan. The text at the bottom gives the date of ascension of King Bert Jaguar III. The first glyph is again an introductory glyph. Then there are 5 glyphs of the long count. And in this case it corresponds to May the 3rd, 752 AD. And notice here that we're reading from left to right in 2 columns at a time, from the top to the bottom. The long count date is followed by a Tzolkin date, and then comes the so-called supplementary series giving 5 glyphs. It includes the lunar phase, the lunation counter, and also that Lord of the Night glyph. And then finally we have the Haab. And then the actual text starts. And there we have it, the workings of the Maya calendar. In the next lecture we'll go deep into the Dresden Codex, the greatest Mayan work on astronomy. In this codex we'll discover bizarrely accurate calculations of the occurrences of eclipses of the Sun and the Moon, and also tables of the periods of Venus and Mars. And we find that the Maya worked with extremely large numbers of days, including the long count date 991600, which equals over 1,000,000 days. And after this period, the Tzolkin, the Haab year, the period of Venus and Mars, and also the calendar round simultaneously return to their starting position. And all this is worked out in the breathtaking Mayan art style. But for now, I hope you are inspired. And if you want to know more about Mayan astronomy or any other topic from world history, then read my book In Search of the Sublime. You can read it completely for free on worldhistorybook.com, or you can buy a physical copy on Amazon. And of course, subscribe. See you next time. Bye bye.